Welcome, everyone. We are live. It's Friday. We made it. We made it. How exciting. Anyway, on the weekends, I like to give us a gentle reminder, to get us through the weekend. What am I going to remind you of today? I'm going to remind you today that we live by way of the principles. Whether you are aware of the principles or not, we live by way of them. Okay? It was interesting. Someone asked a question. I was in these Reddit streets, right? And someone wanted to know, how do you stop cause and effect? Oh my goodness. One does not stop cause and effect. One learns how to choose the desired effect, thereby bringing about the desired cause. That's what we learn to do. You notice when you cook an egg, the albumin, which is the white, it's protein. When you apply heat, it goes white. Cause and effect. You add sugar to something, it becomes sweet. You add salt to something, becomes salty. Cause and effect. Right? You don't trim the bush from around the garden. It will run amok and become uncontrolled. Cause and effect. We live by way of principles. We live by way of principle. There isn't another way to live. Right? Because of those principles. So the great news is this. We already live by way of principle. So you don't have to fret and fuss and try to figure it out. But what you do is you hone your skill so that you develop the type of life you want to have. When we learn the principles, you understand, we make life beautiful. Mind you, it already is beautiful, but it's just, it becomes more beautiful because now you're aware. Now you are aware. Let me give you an example of awareness. When you put a mirror in front of a child, like a baby, or you put a mirror in front of an animal. I have a mirror in my room that little bit will watch himself. In the beginning, he thought it was someone else. But then he became aware that it was himself. You and I do the same thing. There is always, quote unquote, an awakening. And the awakening is realizing, wait, this is me. You put a cat in front of that mirror, and they'll start fighting until they realize, wait. I remember Moon was here one time, and he shared about iguanas. And in the beginning, they would fight with their reflection. That's because they thought it was someone else. But when you become aware that it is your reflection, you stop fighting. I don't know if you know how profound that is, but I'm going to say it to you again. When you realize whose reflection it is, you stop fighting. There's not someone else there. There's you in the mirror. And Lil Bit knows exactly what he is and who he is. because he sees his reflection all the time, and he's become aware that that is what he is. That's who he is. Every time he looks in the mirror, he goes, oh, that's me. So that tells us, Miss Trina, that we become aware of ourselves. At some point during our existence, we become aware of ourselves. We become aware of, oh, I am here. This is me, right? And when you become aware that you exist, then something else happens to you. And, sometimes people think an awakening is this dramatic thing, when in actuality, it is becoming aware of your own existence. And when you become aware of your own existence, what happens? Well, then you begin to see how you behave, how you speak, your mental attitude. You begin to see those things. Thereby, when you see them, you get to choose, wait, do I want to fight? Because I'd just be shadowboxing. I'd just be fighting myself if I was. When one is unaware, they fight themselves. How do you mean they fight themselves? They fight against their habits instead of recognizing that it is a habit. When you recognize that it is a habit, and you recognize that a habit is any behavior or thing that you do the same way every time, well, now you've become aware of how to make them, thereby freeing yourself of the present habit. Good morning, Lil Bit. Oh, he's aware. He's aware. So you see, as you go through the weekend, remember that you exist. And that existence is not at the mercy of anyone. Hear me out. You exist because you are here. Now, what are you going to do with that existence? That is totally now something that you get to experiment with. What type of existence do you want? Remember, it all starts in the mind's eye. As within, so without. Right? You're always moving. You're always moving in the nature of what you say you are. A rooster moves in his nature. You have a nature. You do. And you see what we do with it as people. We condition it. We say, oh, this is how I feel today. This is my mood today. And we condition it. We all do it. Which means, as you condition something, it means you become aware of it and you want to keep doing it or not keep doing it. Because you're conditioning it. To condition something means to train it. Right? I want to say your last name, but Jorg Unjorogi? Welcome, Issa, to the space. You see, we condition ourselves to do things. It is our nature. We condition ourselves, meaning we train ourselves to do things, right? We practice reading, writing, arithmetic. We practice all of those things. Even our judgments are practiced. They are learned. So you see, we are forever conditioning ourselves. But when you become aware of the very fact that you are, and then you condition, the conditioning does not occur first. It is secondary. First of all, you must be in order to become conditioned. You must be. You must be. When you're out there gardening and you have a vine of some sort, a runner, you want to trellis it. You're conditioning it, training it to run along the fence where you put it. Or run along, you know how you do tomatoes. You're conditioning it to run along where you put it. You do the exact same thing in your life. You're conditioning yourself to behave in a particular way. You see, we cannot escape conditioning. It is how we learn to do things. Conditioning is neither bad, good, or indifferent. It is part of our nature. So if you comprehend that to be conditioned is part of your nature, then grasp a hold of your power and condition yourself in a way that is beneficial. But that is up to you. What do you deem to be beneficial? To condition yourself to be a top-notch farmer, what do you have to do? Learn husbandry. Which plants grow well with each other? Which animals fare better with each other? You're conditioning yourself to be the best farmer there is. It's not what you condition yourself to be, you know. It is that you condition yourself because it is our nature to be conditioned. So to quote unquote hack the system, remember, conditioning is simple. Learn something new and do it. Conditioning 101. It's just the same as training, if you will. Nothing to turn your nose up at. People say we've been programmed. Of course. But when you become aware that you have been programmed, that is where the power is. In the awareness that you have been programmed. Now that you know you've been programmed, recognize that that is what we are comprised of, a series of programs, if you will. Now what kind of program do you want to run? Then that'll be the behavior you train yourself to do. You see, we live by it, day in and day out. So that is what this gentle reminder is as we go through the weekend. We keep looking for the profound, but it is the simple things that build into the profound. Because what makes it profound is that you become aware. That's why it's profound to you, that you became aware of it. You're like, oh my God, that is so cool. That is so interesting. And then bam, the light goes on and you're like, oh, I didn't know before. So to awaken means you become aware. Because clearly before, in the state of unawareness, it is akin to sleep. K-frame. Melly Mel L. Oh, kiddo. Hey. Ray Ray. Does this make sense to you? Like, when you do um, accounting, there's something called a billing cycle. It's just a cycle, you know, where and how the money is accounted for. And there's a process to do it. When you learn the process and you see the big picture, you're like, oh, that's what I'm doing. Breaking out the tax versus leaving it in, those kinds of things. When you begin to comprehend how the billing cycle works, now you're aware of the billing cycle and how to use it. There is, if you pay attention into your daily lives, you will see that we're always in a state of becoming aware. Always. You learned how to drive. You became aware of how to drive. Mind you, some of us are still unaware of flick the little thingy up to go right, push it down to go left. That's your indicator. Hello? Think about this. If you do not indicate which direction you want to go, and the person behind you is unaware of what you want to do, there is always awareness in our lives every single day in many different forms, but always one. Meaning, we always become aware, but we become aware of the thing that we're doing and how we're doing it. This is what I'm trying to convey to you. It is always going to come down to that awareness because that is the first principle. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Brain and mind are not the same. But brain is used to interpret. Brain is physical. Mind is non-physical. It is the awareness of yourself. So when you go through this weekend, what are you aware of yourself doing? You see, we fly on autopilot, right? That's how we live our lives. Because autopilot is our nature. Can you imagine if you had to get up and remembered how to breathe? Some things are on autopilot for a reason, right? When you go outside, all you have to hear is that there's a cougar in the bushes. You know, when you're going hiking, and they're very, very quiet and they watch, right? So now you become hyper vigilant. But you don't just become hyper vigilant. Something else happens in your body. A hormone is released, or a cascade of hormones are released to match what you became aware of. You see, you don't have to make the chemicals release themselves. You just have to do what? Get into a frame of mind and the chemicals are released to match. Could you imagine? Oh God. Oh, look, I got to release adrenaline here. I got to release norepinephrine here. No, that would be too much. So autopilot is part of our nature. It's part of our nature. So what behaviors now have you and I developed that we do on autopilot? That is what eventually we become aware of. If you're paying attention, that is. Because sometimes the autopilot is so deep We just act and we don't know why we're acting the way we do. But then you learn something and you become aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then from that point, you say, you know what? I don't want to act like that anymore. I want to act like this. And so you begin to practice a new behavior so that you can follow through with what you say.